Welcome to Driver Training. In today's video, we're going to give you a briefing on how to do right turns when you're driving. So the first thing we need to do is identify the junction. So sometimes you'll see a sign like the triangular sign at the bottom that tells you there's a junction on the right coming up. Other times there won't be. So you need to look for a gap in the pavement, a gap in the houses, white lines across the road. Now, as we're coming up here, here's an example of where there is a sign. So on the left, we can see the triangular sign telling us there is a junction. However, in this next clip, we can see as we come down the road, there is no triangular sign. We just need to look for the white lines across the road, the gap in the pavement, like you can see in our second example. And then as we're traveling down the road again, there's no other warning signs. However, we can at this point see the white lines and the gap in the pavement. So once we've identified our road, the next thing we want to do then is start our MSPSGL routine. So the first thing is mirrors. Center mirror to see who's behind and how close, and the right mirror to see if anybody's already coming round, overtaking you. Now, these days, with the increase of e-bikes and e-scooters, things can come at the side of you so quickly. It really is important that before we do anything, we check the center mirror and the right mirror. Once we've made sure it's safe, then we want to put the signal on. Now, what most people do is when they're turning right, they'll move across to the center line, then they will put the signal on. Well, that is wrong. You need to tell people, I'm about to move across towards the center of the road. So therefore, the signal has to go on first before you do anything. Once our signal is on, then we can think position. And we know our position is just to the left of the center white line. And if you're not sure how to do that, what you can do is get a reference point or a focal point, and that will help you to know you're in the correct position. Now, this focal point or reference point will be the same one you use when you go on to emerging right at junctions. So what you want to do is get the car in the correct position and then look, where does the center white line of the road you're on, where does that meet the front of your car? And that way then you always know you're in the correct position for turning or emerging right. The importance of this, well, in the recently released DVSA top 10 reasons people fail their driving test, number 4 was obstructing traffic when waiting to turn right, or when you want to turn right at the end of the road. When we go on to emerging, you incorrectly position to the left. So getting the correct position to turn right is really important, because if we're in the wrong position, like the blue car here, we're too far to the left. So what that does, that blocks the traffic. The idea is the traffic should be able to get round us. So when we pull up, we want to be alongside that center white line. So if the road is wide enough, 1, traffic can get round us, but 2, we're not going to fail our driving tests for being badly positioned. So the next part of our routine is speed. Now, speed on approach to a right turn, because it's much sharper, is generally lower. So it's around 10 miles an hour, but that depends on the turn and also depends on whether we're able to go or not. So once we've slowed the speed down, then we pick the appropriate gear, which is generally, if we're in a manual, second gear if we can go, If we can't, we know it's going to be first gear. How do we decide what the gear is? Well, that comes down to looking. We've got to look ahead, first of all, decide whether we can go or whether we need to stop, and that's going to determine the gear that we're in. So how do we decide whether it's safe to go or not? Well, what we need to do is think of ourselves as a pedestrian. We imagine ourselves standing in the middle of the road and we think, could I walk from the centre white line to the pavement before the car gets to me? So we can think, if I was standing here and I wanted to walk across the road to there, could I do it before the car that's approaching would get to me? If the answer is yes, we could walk it, we're pretty sure we can go in the car as well. So after that then, the next part is, well, whether I've decided to go or to stop, where do I turn or where do I need to stop? And the answer to both is whether we go, we turn level with the centre white line of the road we're turning into. If we need to stop, we stop level with the centre white line of the road we're turning into. And the reason we need to make sure of that is if we turn early, we end up doing what's called a right corner cut, which is where we turn onto the wrong side of the road. And of course, anybody coming down, there's a potential for conflict. But we don't want to go too far past, otherwise we end up doing what's called a swan neck, where it almost looks like we've got the wrong junction and we're driving past it. Then we decide to swing back on ourselves. And again, the danger with that is the car behind can think, oh great, they've got the wrong junction, I'll go. And just as they go round that turn, that's when you are then swinging back into their path. So how do we do that confidently? Well, that's what comes back to our reference point or focal point. And what we want to do is come up level with the white line, stop in the correct position, and then see where does the centre white line of the road you're turning into, where does that meet the plastic casing around your mirror? Can you see in this example, it's almost on the corner part? So once we've got that, we know every time if we come up and match that white line to that point, we're in the correct position to turn right. The final part of the look routine is to see, are there any pedestrians about to cross, already in the process of crossing, any cyclists? Because now with the new highway code rules, remember, you have to give way to them. Is there anything parked on the corner on the left so that you need to go round on the wrong side of the road to get past them? That's what you need to look at before you decide to turn into that road on the right. As a handy tip for if you have problems heading back towards the centre line, think of the new road in a clock position. So the new road is at the 12 o'clock position. When the front of your car gets to about the 11 o'clock position, that's the point you would start steering back. The reason for this is a right turn is a much sharper turn than the left one. So your wheels are at a much sharper angle. So if you wait till you're straight to start steering back, that's when you'll head back towards that centre white line. Whereas if you preempt it and start turning back to the left when you're kind of at the 11 o'clock position, that should hopefully help you a lot with that situation. So we hope this has helped you understand how to turn right safely. Please leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more useful and handy driving tips. My name's Chris from Driver Training. Remember, keep well, drive safely, and we'll see you all again in our next video.